I know, buddy. Just give me a minute. This'll work, right?
Thanks to the old trick of virtually moving to New Zealand on the Xbox, I was able to access Star Wars Outlaws at 5:30 p.m. local time on the 26th, and so I was able to spend some time with the game and decided to make another of my early impressions videos. I make these videos because they give me some breathing room to put out a full review at my own pace while also taking advantage of the increased interest in the game during its launch window. I've been preparing for Star Wars Outlaws all through August by playing the two Jedi games by Respawn Entertainment. I started Outlaws expecting a completely different experience, and that's exactly what I found. In this video, I talk about my early experience with the game. I played 4 missions spanning across 2 hours. While I believe there are no major spoilers, watch this video at your own risk. Let's get started. Unlike the Jedi games, the main character in Outlaws is a common thief named Kay Wess. Her goal is to escape her mundane existence and seek a better life elsewhere in the galaxy. She starts off on the planet Cantonica and steals a ship to start her adventures. She has a pet/companion called Nix, a living organism unlike the robotic companion BD-1 from the Jedi games. Nix is quite useful, which I'll talk about in the gameplay section. In the opening hours, we see Kay meet the main villain of the game and see her escape and just get started on her adventure. Along the way, she learns about the various factions that she needs to be aware of and how to manipulate them to survive in the galaxy. I would say that the story is off to a good start, and even for someone like me who doesn't really follow the entire Star Wars story and only has a passing interest in the main feature films, the story is simple enough to follow. The game's biggest strength and weakness is the absence of lightsabers, at least for now. I fully expect at least one character to show up at some point in the game wielding a lightsaber, but at least in the opening hours, you have to rely on your blaster to guide you through combat. The alternative, since you're a thief, is to rely on stealth to avoid direct combat altogether. This gives the game a bit of a rough start because you may go in expecting an adrenaline-pumping Star Wars adventure, and what you actually get is Assassin's Creed Lite. I'm not even kidding. In one of the early sections, I had to do the exact same things I would do in a standard Assassin's Creed stealth mission. Use some sort of magic vision to identify your enemies, then go hide in some tall grass, whistle to attract a nearby enemy, and then take them down quietly. We've done this so many times in AC games that it is both funny and sad to see that gameplay loop being reused here. The game also reuses another common mission structure where you are forced to use stealth. If you get detected, you fail the mission. This can be annoying for someone who just wants to get into the action and not hide from it. This is perhaps the most important thing to know about this game and set your expectations. It places a lot of emphasis on stealth. Most of the time, you do get the option to go in all guns blazing, but it may actually be faster to use a stealthy approach so that you don't risk alerting other guards who will simply prolong the fight. Also adding to the stealth factor are the lock picking and slice minigames. They are simply things a thief would do. They were okay the first few times I did them, but I can already tell that if there's no significant changes to these minigames later, they will quickly become boring and seem like unnecessary obstacles. There are other minigames too which I haven't fully explored, except for the horse racing one which the game throws in your face at the very beginning. In terms of action, you don't have any force powers like in the Jedi games, so you have to rely on your blaster to deal with enemies. You can also pick up any weapons that your enemies drop and use them, but you can't store them. You will automatically drop these weapons if you perform other actions like jumping or using a grenade. There's a marking system similar to the Red Dead game's Deadeye system, where you can mark multiple targets at a time and shoot them all at once. It works as intended, although I have to wait and see if it offers any changes later on. Now let's come back to Nyx, your helpful pet who does a lot more than simply being cute. It can distract enemies, bring you items from afar, including stealing credits from people, offer this game's version of eagle vision to detect enemies, and open doors for you in places where there's no room for you to move. It's quite a useful companion for sure, maybe even more so than BD1. Traversal in the game is pretty decent. You can jump around, grapple from certain points, but you can't parkour like in the AC games. Neither can you wall run like in the Jedi games. So, relatively speaking, your character is a bit slow, but at least you get a speeder while roaming across the open world. There's space travel and combat as well, but I haven't spent enough time on those aspects of the game yet. To summarize the gameplay elements so far, we've got stealth, direct combat, decent platforming, traveling on a speeder and a spaceship, and also space combat, along with a selection of mini-games. So it's safe to say that the gameplay in Outlaws offers a decent variety of things to do so that you don't get too bored. In other words, this is where the game is most like a standard Ubisoft open world title.
We fix the ship, get to the core worlds, and land a big score.
The game is developed by Massive Entertainment, the same folks behind the beautiful Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. Naturally, there's very little to complain about the visuals. I haven't even landed on 3 of the 5 planets present in the game, and even from the 2 that I have seen, I can already tell that this game is going to be a visual feast. Paired with Ubisoft's well-known open world layout, this game invites players to explore every corner of each of the 5 planets, and I am quite eager to see what I discover going forward. As usual, I played via Ubisoft Plus on my Xbox Series X on performance mode, and the game ran quite smoothly with no issues to complain about. Again, these are very early impressions, but the first 2 hours were quite smooth. If you've seen the trailers, you might have noticed a lot of the gameplay being presented in a cinematic style with black borders on the top and bottom of the screen. Recently, Hellblade 2 also used a similar style. Thankfully, you can turn off this display and use a standard full screen style if you want. You can switch between the 2 styles whenever you want, so it is really up to personal preference. I eventually used the full screen style so that it was easier to tell when a cutscene started.
You're a little young for a thief.
One thing I was not expecting from this game was to be surprised with some really good music. This is one of those games where the main menu music is so good that the first time you hear it, you don't feel like pressing that button to start the game. I think the last time I felt like this was with The Outer Worlds, which had a really emotional theme. The sound effects are excellent, as you would expect from a Star Wars game, although I will say that I do miss the swoosh sound of the lightsabers. Voice acting is pretty good as well. Generally speaking, Ubisoft almost always puts in a lot of effort to make their games sound good, and they have succeeded once again here.
This is your one shot. A safe filled with 157 million credits.
This game has certainly passed the first check. Is it worth playing beyond the first 2 hours? And I think the answer is a resounding yes. Full reviews of the game have already come out, and we now know that if you focus only on the main story, this game runs for around 20 hours. That's a pretty standard length for AAA games these days, although I will definitely recommend using the subscription route instead of paying full price. And I don't mind recommending this because that is exactly what Ubisoft wants. My additional recommendation, however, will be to remember turning off your auto renewal as soon as you are done with the game. That's it for now. I will play the game at my own pace and come back with a full review in September. Thanks for watching.